Yo, what up? It's CLance. You're tuning into Breaking Records Radio, my favorite radio for underground hip hop, and show you support. Peace.
Breaking Records Radio and the place to be. You know what it is. It's your host Maloney, and I got a super special guest with me on in the interview with me right now, man. Like this guy, I've been a fan of this guy for many years. I'm honored to be able to talk to him right now. You know, some people find the term super producer kind of corny, but I think this guy fits the bill if you're going to talk super producer, man. I mean, I could keep going, but you know, let's just let the dialogue, you know, between us define, you know, more of some of your accolades and stuff, man. I got CLance with me, man. How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
You know, I've been a fan of your work for many years. You know, from Vinny Paz, Heavy Metal Kings, up to Swollen Members, and then next thing you know, the whole Stomp Down movement, and then as of late, like you've just been all over the place, bodying shit for everybody, whether it be, you know, RA or Ritz or Chris Webby, or you know, like you've been everywhere, man. And so, you know, there's so many talking points. But yeah. You know, I'd like to start back from the very beginning, if that's cool with you.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Well, first off, you know, I know that one of your first interviews was with actually one of our hosts for our show, Alex Kuchba. He runs the Underground Vault.
Yep.
Yeah, he's one of the hosts of our show. So I was listening to that interview a little earlier today. So I did get a little bit of some of your early stuff, but I know he skipped over it. So if we're just gonna start right from square one, if that's cool with you.
Yep, definitely.
All right, man. And I know in that interview you mentioned Chronic 2001 was one of your biggest influences to really start producing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for every producer, like around my age, or even younger than me or older than me, like that has to be an album that you look at and be like, I want to do this. I want to do what this guy's doing. You know, because like everybody, like me personally, like I look at Dre as a producer and not necessarily a rapper, even though, you know, he raps on that album, but like, and just also like all the guys that he's produced through his career, like we wouldn't have Eminem, we wouldn't have Snoop Dogg, you know, Ice Cube, you know, Busta Rhymes, like all these guys that he like, you know, produced. So yeah, that album really like helped mold my sound and everything. And like you might not hear West Coast beats because I'm from Boston, so I'm not really West Coast, but I know I've done some stuff for Merk that's like kind of like West Coasty, and I don't know, man, I just love that stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, and you definitely have especially for Merk, you definitely hit some of that West Coast sound and stuff as of late, especially too. But you know, I think that's one thing that I kind of found unique about it too, because I mean, obviously 2001 is, you know, that sonically the production on that, you know, there was really nothing else like it at the time. Like that was just, you know, that bass, that loud and so clear. Like the way, like some of those samples, like David sample on the next episode. Like how did you tweak that sample to be so clean?
I don't know. I think you had to have somebody replay it.
Yeah.
But because if you listen to the sample, it sounds like the same instrument, but it's way like it's almost like the sample was mixed through like a spaceship, like to make it sound like next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. So I don't know.
Incredible.
For years, I tried to study what he did to make samples sound like that. It's like a cheat code.
Yeah. I know it's absolutely phenomenal, like the way that sonically he was able to do that. And I think you might be right. I think Scott Storch might have replayed some of those samples.
He definitely did. I mean, like Still Dre, I mean, I don't know if that originally was a sample. Like, I don't know if Scott Storch, you know, he just came up with that in his head, but the man, that one, I mean, like that beat alone, you could listen, like that's one of the beats you could listen to on loop with no lyrics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like others come to mind, like, you know, Shook One's Part 2. Like, you know, like you could just listen to the beat You know, like it's just classic, man.
Yeah. But I think it's cool too though, because with that being such a pinnacle in production style, you know, you wouldn't necessarily, I mean, like you said, until recently, you wouldn't necessarily pick that one out. You know what I mean? Like you can definitely tell in the earlier work, there's some of that, you know, like the Stoupe influence and stuff. But even like moving on from there, there's a lot of that kind of 90s New York sound, you know, like a lot of the stuff you did for Mad Child, kind of like almost reminiscent of like Pete Rock, later 90s Pete Rock, you know, even a little bit of like later 90s Large Professor, stuff like that.
Yep. I mean, those guys are legends, but I wouldn't say that those two guys you mentioned weren't like influences for me, really. Like,
really?
I know that's weird to say, but no, they weren't. Like we were talking about Dre, like Stoupe is my biggest influence. Alchemist, like DJ Premier, you know what I mean? So, DJ Muggs, even like, I mean, like even Necro is like his, like, you know, the stuff he did for like nonfiction, like, you know, like stuff like that. It's just like, you mentioned the Mad Child stuff. Like I used a lot of like melodic, kind of like carnival type beats. Like when people think of Mad Child, they kind of think of like those up tempo, like, you know, carnival stuff. You know what I mean? I had a lot of that stuff for the earlier stuff I did with him. It's kind of like that. But I see what you mean about like the 90s Large Professor stuff. Like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, like I said, I think I have influence from a lot of guys, but most specific is Stoupe, definitely. And especially the stuff I've done with Paz, like you can kind of hear Stoupe mixed with Alchemist, mixed with, you know, Dre, mixed with Premier. It's like I took a piece of all those guys, and I personally believe I made my own sound. Like I think people know a CLance beat when it plays, but yeah, I like definitely those guys, man.
Yeah, you've definitely curated your own sound over the years. Even back then though, like pretty much since, you know, like the Dope Sick days, like I could pretty well, like I was like, oh, like you've had your own kind of signature sound, which I think is one thing that, you know, that's probably part of the reason. I mean, one thing is obviously the connections you've made and doing good business, doing good work and being referred and stuff like that. But I think the fact that you are able to kind of create your own signature sound so early on, I think really probably helped separate you from the batch of a lot of other producers at the time.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that I pride myself on having like big, loud drums, and like maybe not like not so much back in like 2010 or 2011, whenever Dope Sick came out. I think it was 2010. But like back then, I feel like everyone had the big drums. Like fast forward now, you hear a lot of the just like people like looping samples with no drums, and it's just a lot of like slow, like, you know, 50 BPM beats, and I'm just sitting there like I can't nod my head to this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why you always hear like the loud snare. And I even remember I would get like hate comments on my Facebook and stuff, being like, your drums are always, you know, the same, or they're too loud, and I'm just like, well, don't listen to it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, but I always prided myself on just having like that snare that like punches you in the face. You know, like, because that's the stuff that I liked. That's what for me, like that's what Primo would always do. That, like, you know, Stoupe always had drums in his beats, you know, so that's just like, you know, I love that stuff, man. Like a hard snare that you can just feel in your chest.
Honestly, you named DJ Premier a few times. DJ Premier is my favorite producer of all time, and that's exactly why. A lot of times Primo won't even put bass in his beats. They're not even a bass.
No.
You know what I mean? But those drums smack so fucking hard that it doesn't. You don't need the bass. You don't need a bass line.
No. As long as the kick and snare hit, I'm good.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know?
a big fan really hard drums too. And I think, you know, and that even goes to the Dr. Dre 2001 too. Like Dre's always been good with, you know, the low end and the beats as well. Like his bass lines are always crisp and clean. But like his drum still, he finds a pocket for the drums to have their own air to breathe while the bass line has its own air to breathe, and they're not competing with one another. You know what I mean? I think that's that's one of the things that really makes his production so stand out compared to a lot of other people who, you know, may even have similar sounds to him in certain phases of his career.
I think one of his biggest talents is he knows how to mix. He knows how to mix his kick with the bass, like, so they don't overlap, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of his biggest talents, just like the mix of stuff. You know what I mean? Like you said, when 2001 came out, it sounded like nothing. Like it sounded like nothing else you've ever heard. I think it's because like the mix just was like at that time, like other albums were here, he was like up here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just insane.
And it's incredible too, right? Because I know, I'm not sure your age. I'm not going to ask you to air it out, but I know we're both a little younger than probably some of the hip hop maybe that we were into growing up. And but it's the same thing that happened when he dropped his first album, right? Like when that album, The Chronic, came out, it redefined how you mix hip hop beats. Like everyone's like, "What the fuck is this? How did you do this? How did you filter that Parliament bass line out? Like how did you what?" You know? Like,
yeah. Like the G-Funk stuff, right?
Yeah.
Even if you go back and listen to the samples, there's like a thing on YouTube. It's just like Dr. Dre samples or something. But if you listen to the samples that he used on the original Chronic, and then you listen to the beat, like once again, it sounds like someone replayed it.
Yeah.
Right? So
absolutely,
it's just
incredible.
It's just insane. Yeah. I don't think there'll ever be like, you know, like the way hip hop is now with just like an album gets released on Spotify and you're on to something else in the next week. I don't think there'll ever be as big as an impactful album as Chronic was.
I think you're right, man. I think you're right. And with that being said, too, like, you know, with the way that hip hop even is now, right? It's like you mentioned, a lot of drumless beats and just sample loops. Like a lot of people kind of biting that Madlib steed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I like Madlib for that, but I don't like everybody else doing that. You know what I mean?
No. It's like I'm a fan of Derringer, the producer for Griselda, and then it's like once he started gaining momentum and like he was like producing all their stuff, you'd hear like 100 other producers making Derringer beats.
Yeah,
it's like, right? Like I feel like I always hear like this, like the same Griselda beat, and then I'm just like, oh, this is a Derringer beat, and then it's not him. It's just like some random kid making a Griselda beat. It's like if people want that sound, they're gonna go to Derringer, not some random kid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, so it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I understand. There's also like you try to like recreate that sound, like with me, it's like I get influenced by guys like Alchemist and in Premiere and Stoupe, and then like, but then I'll find myself making 100 Stoupe like beats. So then I'm just like, man, I gotta focus on what I do best, you know?
Yeah.
Because Paz will just go to Stoupe. If he wants a Stoupe beat, he'll just text Stoupe. He's not gonna come to me. You know what I mean? Like they come to me for my sound. You know what I mean?
And when you're in the creative process, how do you get yourself out of that pocket? Even like I myself, right? I do produce as well. But like I find myself a victim of that sometimes. Like, you know, like you know, someone will drop something, or, you know, I'll go back and dig in the crates and find something and you know, some 90s shit. Like, you know, like maybe I'll be listening to Poor Righteous Teachers and I'll be like, ooh, that Miss Ghetto beat. And then that'll inspire me to start digging, cooking some shit up. And next thing you know, I've made 10 beats that sound like something that would be on a Poor Righteous Teachers album. And sometimes it's kind of hard to get out of that groove because you're so like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you snap yourself out of that? Sorry, somebody just tried calling me. How do you snap yourself out of that and kind of get back into the CLance vibe?
So I know exactly what you're saying, because I'll like throw on like an Eminem album from his early albums, and then I'll start making a bunch of Slim Shady beats. But then I'll just like, I'll wake up the next day and listen to them and be like, who do I work with that's going to use these? Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I'll start like, and then like, you know what I do? I'll go back to stuff that Paz has picked from me. Like I'll listen to Season of the Assassin or the last two JMT albums. And I'll just like, okay, like, you know, this is my sound. I got to get back into this. And then I'll just immediately go to start digging for samples. And, you know, I try, like, this is going to sound weird, but I try not to listen to too much hip hop, like current hip hop, because I feel like I'll get too influenced. Like I said, I'll listen to, you know how Alchemist drops those like rapper's best friend instrumental projects. I'll never forget, like a couple years ago, I was listening to like Rapper's Best Friend 4 or something. And then I would just try to make those same beats. Like in my mind, I'm just like, I'm going to make Alchemist beats today. So like now in like 2021, I've tried not to listen to too much stuff. Like I'll listen to like 90s alternative instead. Because I'm not gonna make a System of a Down beat. So like I'm not even physically capable of doing that. So I'll just I kind of listen to like 90s alternative, and you know, I just get like influenced for some reason. Like if I listen to, you know, even if I listen to like a JMT album from like 2006, like Paz doesn't necessarily pick those type of beats now. So it's like I'm kind of just like, this is what I want to hear, but it's not like what is going on now. So I have to make something different, you know. But you know, I just like, there'll be days where I'll make like Alchemist beats, or I'll make Primo beats, but I just wake up the next day and I just remind myself, like, you know, people come to me for my sound. I got to get back to what I do.
Yeah. I think that's really important too, man, because, you know, like I said, it's very easy to fall in those traps of being inspired. And at the same time too, it's sometimes, like, I think that's a very unique talent you have, to be able to actually just like, you know, to kind of not try to listen to so much stuff because your fear of influence, and just stick to your own guns, you know, because a lot of times, creative block will happen. People actually, you know, like you'll need to go out and listen to stuff to become inspired. So for you to be able to kind of draw that line and be like, I need to get back to me and self-motivate and self-inspire, I think that's a very, very important tool that probably separates you once again from, you know, the rest of the pack. And is partly probably why, you know, you do stick out so much, because I think that's a very, very hard self-realization to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yep.
I got the Midas Touch, everything I hold a touch combust to gold dust. You see me as a threat, but you don't need to sweat, cause your girl know I keep her wetter than a chia pet. Ain't nobody give a fuck when you doing bad. Motherfuckers wanna hate when you doing good. Hoping that this feeling doesn't stay. Getting drunk every day, waiting till it goes the fuck away. Then I wake up to another day just to face reality again, cause the buzz of pain doesn't change a fucking thing. Nothing comes next, I wonder what's next. I used to be atheist, but now I just say fuck it, I'm blessed. Fuck it, I'm blessed.
They say it's easier said than done, so I'm working till I get it done.